Hey BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to film a classics, all the books I want to read, all the classics I want to read. Of course, this is really not all of them, so it's more like some of the classics I want to read this year. The problem is, I was thinking, I'll just pick them out now, right before I film, but then I was looking at my shelf and thinking, I want to read that classic, I want to read that classic, and I want to read that one too, and that classics too. And, I try to limit myself to 21, but it doesn't work, because I keep thinking, I want to try that one as well, and that one too, and so, this is just a handful of some of the classics I want to read, this year. First, I'm going to show you all the ones that are that will be rereads for me first. Okay. So first, I'm going to show you this is one I read in middle school, I believe, or early high school. I read it at the time. The first time I read it, I didn't like it. It was not a favorite. But now that I'm older, I decided that I want to give it another shot. Especially since I'm getting more interested in this author, and the way people talk about this book, and I remember what happened, so I know why people say this, that it makes them cry, and I get why. So I want to reread it again, although it probably still won't make me cry, because I don't cry during books. I need the visuals, and not just my own imagination. My imagination does not have that much of an effect on me. But if I get the actual visual on the actual screen, then yeah, I might cry. So if I ever watch the actual movie, which has Gary Sinise, I think, is in it. I think that's his name. The one who but this is the Of Mice and Men, and I bought this edition because I have of Grapes of Wrath in this edition, so I want at least another one of Steinbeck's books in this edition, because I do really like these editions. And this one, it's about these two guys. Let me see if I get their names. And it also takes place in Pinellas Valley, California. Lenny's one of them. I just don't remember the other one. The other guy. Lenny and Swiggy? No, it's not Swiggy. Lenny. Let me see if I can find the other guy's name. George. Lenny and George. And it's these two guys who, are they decide they're kind of living on the streets, and they're hitchhikers. That's where I was trying to think of, hitchhikers, and they end up getting a job on a farm, and they are, and Lenny unfortunately has he's really tall and kind of big looking, broad, and kind of like very intimidating, and looks really strong, like he could easily kill you. And he's such a soft boy. He's such a sweetie, and he loves animals. And it's and George is very loyal to him. And I think Lenny gets in trouble where it looks like he might have hurt someone, and George has to, deal with the aftermath and help Lenny. And like I said, I know, and now I had a bind-up omnibus of Steinbeck's, some of his shorter works, some of his novellas, but I wanted to reread this one. But I decided that I needed one that was in a different edition, that was more portable, and just that book in particular, and it was easier to travel with and to read. Not that that one's as bad as, it's not as big as, my Dickens or Austen collection. I mean, in, omnibus one, or Shakespeare. But it was still, a little bit much, and it was also... Ooh, Oh, yeah, here's the rain, so I guess I won't be running today. um, so I wanted to get one like this, so I could just, it wouldn't be as hard or as intimidating. It wouldn't feel like so much. And this, I mean, like this is really small, and the print is a decent size. Let's see. It's a good size, so that's nice. And I was looking in the list on the back of where they sometimes list other works and stuff in this edition, and or other works by the author. It's in the play section. It says "Of Mice and Men and the Moon is Down," and the foreword is by James Earl Jones. So that kind of like, ooh, that's cool. So I don't know if that's the play version. I guess the play version of the story. But yeah, I want to read this one, and I do love stories about friends and siblings. I always have a soft spot for those. I want to read more of those kinds of stories. And then I also want to reread Withering Heights, which I read that more recently. I don't know if it was 2019 I read this one, or 2018. Or maybe in 2020. I can't remember when I reread this. I have to look. I think it was in 2019. By Emily Bronte. This is about a toxic relationship. It's one of them. It's very famous. There was a movie starring Juliette Binoche and Ralph Fiennes. It's kind of a story within a story situation where you have this guy who inherited this house, Thrush Grange. He inherits the house, and then he but he wants to, the owner of the house is a little standoffish and kind of cranky and a little mean, and he finds out from one of the women and he gets the story from Nellie Dean, one of the women who used to work at the house. And then and she tells her story of the people that used to live there, especially Kathy and Heathcliff. And so in that story, Heathcliff is this orphan boy, and I want to say he's Romani actually, because they refer to him as a gypsy. And it's his relationship with Kathy's family, and his love for Kathy and devotion to her, but she, along with her brothers, kind of bullies this kid, and eventually one day, as an adult, he leaves, or late teens, he leaves and comes back, and he decides to seek revenge on Kathy and all those other people who were mean to him in this family. So it's not a romance. It has what you could call a toxic romance, a romance that shouldn't be, but it's a revenge story, and I think that's a lot of people's problem why they get disappointed and give this bad reviews, is because they're expecting a romance and it's not a romance, or at least it's not a healthy one. It's not romantic goals. I love this cover, by the way. Sometimes I love the penguin covers, and sometimes I don't. But so it's not don't think of it as a romance. Think of it as a revenge story. So I want to reread that one, and then watch the movie again, because I have the movie. And then I also want to reread Great Expectations by Dickens, and I also want to reread David Copperfield at some point. But this is about an orphan boy, Pip, who inherits a fortune from a mysterious benefactor, and becomes part of the wealthy, the upper class. And it's about his experience and how it changes him. But there's also this other plot where before he gets the money, he is sent to this elderly woman by his sister. His sister, who treats him like crap, sends him to stay with this elderly woman and to be taught and she is this one who was jilted at the altar, so she's kind of, something's like not right upstairs with her because she's still living with that trauma, and her clocks are already are set on the time that she got jilted. She's always wearing her wedding dress, and while he's there, he kind of meets her ward, Estelle, who's this little girl, who's this young girl who is his age, and she treats him like crap. She takes advantage of him, and he's head over heels in love with her, with the help of this woman, Miss Havisham. And it's such a great story, and I want to reread it again. It's, I want to, just the relationship between Estelle and Miss Havisham, and just like they, in the Dickens Tolstoy debate done by Intelligence Square, they did such a great, they really talked about that scene, and the actors performed that scene between Miss Havisham and Estelle. That was really interesting, and kind of showed how Miss Havisham's influence over Estella, and how she starts to regret it because she created a monster in Estelle. So that whole plot I find really interesting, and Pip is such a main character that you get frustrated with and get annoyed by, but he's a good character. He's probably a very realistic character as well. So I want to reread this and give it, I gotta admit, I didn't love it the first time. I still loved it. I definitely loved it more than Hard Times, but I kind of prefer David Copperfield over this one. But I want to reread this again. And maybe, kind of like with what happened with Persuasion, my opinion my love for it might grow and be more. And then another Dickens, and I want to reread, is Oliver Twist. Now this one I opted up to Bad Time when I first read this one. Although I'm not the only one who doesn't love this one as much as the others. And Oliver Twist is such an annoying main character, and he's so he feels so one-dimensional. But the story itself is so interesting, and I think it's also a good story for a young Dickens fan, because especially a young boy, because it's about a boy, and how his journey as an orphan, what he goes through, and the musical, other versions of it, adaptations of it, do not even begin to cover the whole story, because there's so much more than him just being taken in by the thieves, that Dodger and Bill and Fagin and all of them. And there was also a bit of controversy with this one, because Fagin was kind of described as Dickens was kind of mocking Jews, with Fagin's character being Jewish and putting the Jews in a very negative light. So a lot of people in the Jewish community did not respond well to that. But he does apologize in another book later about that, with making this other character that's a good guy. This other character is a good guy, happens to also be Jewish too. So that was Dickens' apology. But I think the plot itself is kind of fun and interesting, and there's so much more to the story, like I said, than what adaptations cover. So I want to give this one this is another one I definitely want to give another shot. I want to try again. I actually have tried it again, but then I got sidetracked. So I want to continue with this one this year. And then now this is one I read a long time ago, and I want to reread it again, because I remember at the time I was kind of disappointed by it, but I want to reread it now, knowing what I'm getting into with this one. And I don't know if I'm going to wait again until October, or just read it now, because it could work for Victober. And that is Bram Stoker's Dracula. First, I got this lovely World Classics edition. I love these editions, like with the quotes and everything, and the way these books feel, and the raised lettering and all that. I just have to. I love these editions. And again another one that I started back in October, but got sidetracked. It's not as big. It's not a 500 plus page book, but it's still pretty big, pretty chunky. But yeah, I want to give this another shot because, now that I know what Dracula is all about and everything, I always knew it was about the vampire Dracula, but I know that what I'm getting into with the story, and it's not going to be like the modern vampires of today, like Vampire Diaries or Twilight, or like, Anne Rice's work. It's going to be more of a hero story, and Dracula's clearly the antagonist, and he's not as involved as people would like him to be. Like I said, I think a lot of people were disappointed because of that, partly because of that. And, now I know that it's going to be just journal entries and diaries, and before I did not know that. And now that I'm a little older and have read more books, more classics, I definitely want to, and I've gotten more into the writing style, and gotten comfortable and more into the writing style of older books, I could do it. And I enjoyed what I read. I liked what I read so far. It was very interesting. Okay, I also want to reread another one that I read a while back, and the first time I read it, I was kind of bored, but I want to give it another chance. And also, I read an abridged version of it, not realizing I read an abridged version of it until I started seeing other editions of it and realizing how long the book really is. And that's Les Mis. I love the musical. I've seen both the first movie that was made. That's probably a little bit closer to the book. It's not a musical, and it's a Liam Neeson and Jeffrey Rush one, and Claire Danes is in it. I saw that one, and I like that movie, although I did decide to put it in the donation pile because it's not my favorite movie. I like it, but, I don't watch it. I haven't watched it. I did not watch it a lot. So, I ended up putting it in the donation pile. And but I do love the musical, so I want to give it another chance. So, again, another one that I started over the summer, but I've been sidetracked for a while. Les Miserables. I think that's would be the pronunciation. And again, now that I'm older and, I want to give it another shot. And my tastes have changed. I've had more experience with classics. And it's not that, it's kind of readable. It is readable. It's just chunky. Just a lot of pages, a lot of words. But it's still readable. I feel like there's a lot of classics that it's more like, and I think also what can throw you off is classics that are translations of French, Russian literature, or probably amount in other, or Spanish, or if you're English speaking, sometimes as an English speaking person, I will stumble on words that are still in the other language, like names and stuff like that, names of places, unless I hear how to pronounce them. But yeah, as you can see, I have started it. In case you don't know what this one is, it's basically you start with Jean Valjean, and he has been in prison for 19 years for thievery, and the only reason he's been in there for 19 years is because he kept trying to break out. And so his sentence kept increasing, and eventually he finally gets on parole. But he breaks his parole, and so now he's being hunted down by Javert, who is a police officer. And although I don't think Javert actually worked at the prison where Jean Valjean was, I think he wasn't there, and he's part of the police force, but he wasn't there because we don't even learn that much about him until later. After some time, around closer to the time when Jean Valjean and Javert meet for the first time. which I did not know that, because the musical, he's there. In the musical, he's there where Jean Valjean is with the whole chain gang and stuff. So, I mean, there's a little duet between them. So, I guess they wanted to put him in the scene, just to connect the two gentlemen. And Jean Valjean changes his identity as a mayor, becomes the mayor of this little village town, and he owns, like, a couple of factories and stuff, and one of his workers, Fantine, she has a bit of a love affair with this guy, who ends up abandoning her, but not before he got her pregnant. She has Cosette, but she doesn't have enough money to take care of her, so she sends Cosette away to live with this family, the Thénardiers, who own a tavern, and she tries to work to get enough money, but they keep asking for more money from her, and she never seems to be able to afford to give them more money. And she gets fired from the factory because she kept getting harassed by her boss, and she kept turning him down, so she gets fired and thrown out on the street. But then, after an incident with a gentleman, she becomes a prostitute, and after an incident with a gentleman, she almost gets arrested, but Jean Valjean, as the mayor, feels sorry for her and sympathetic for her, and takes her to take care of her and help nurse her back to health, but she ends up passing away, but not before she tells him about her daughter, Cosette. And so Jean Valjean decides to go find Cosette and give these people the money, because he now has enough money to give them, enough francs to give them, and he takes Cosette with him, and then he raises her into her, I guess she's a teenager. And eventually the French Revolution happens, and she and this young student, Marius, meet and fall in love. So Marius has to decide between staying loyal to pursuing his love for Cosette, or fighting in this revolution with his friends. And the only one of the handful of classics I actually know the plot pretty well, and that's partly because of the movie and the stage show. Now, the stage show, of course, or the movie with Liam Neeson, does not even begin to cover everything that's in this book. Look how big this book is. This book could be a series. Could be like a TV series. Like, you could have a season all about Jean Valjean. And then you could have, you could do a 10-episode season, and then all the way up to when he takes Cosette. And then that next season could be the Cosette and Marius season, and the whole revolution starting and stuff. You could turn this into a series. You might have to add a little bit more, or find a way to expand it each episode so that you can do each is in one episode, but you could turn this into a series instead of just a movie or a mini series, like an actual TV series. But anyway, I love revolutions and stuff, historical revolutions and everything. I think that concept is really cool. Seeing people fight for their freedom and equality, and fighting against the upper class. I love that kind of premise in a book. But what's interesting is that you meet the character of the priest that kind of inspires Jean Valjean to turn his life around and become a better person and become this new person, erase Jean Valjean, the man he was before, and then become this whole new man. You meet him he's in the movies. I think he was in the movie, and then he's in the musical. But he doesn't, you get his whole backstory in this book. You learn a lot more about him. And, you really meet and get to know his character in the book. That's, one of the things that, that is not in the show, but in the is in the original text, obviously. And like I said, it's not that hard to read. Like I stumble on the French words, because there are some words in French, but that's about it. And then there, like I said, there's a lot more story in the story, and sometimes there are parts that are a little bit boring, But mostly, it's a really good book. So I want to reread it. And then the last one I'm going to talk about as a reread will be Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I remember really loving this. I read this. I finished this in 2019, I believe. This is about a young student who decides to solve his debt problems by killing a pawnbroker and stealing from her. And he ends up feeling guilty, and it drives him crazy. And meanwhile, he's dealing with this other conflict with his family, where his sister has, a bunch of 3 suitors, and 2 of them are trying to blackmail her. And he's dealing with that as well. Now, most people, though, don't say what the crime... When most people talk about this book, they don't say what the crime is. So I'm like, am I spoiling it by telling you guys what the crime is? What he tries to do? I think I'm spoiling it, because other people don't ever say what, they just say he decides to commit a crime. It's all about his guilt. So, I really liked it. I want to read it again so that maybe I can appreciate even more. It's only... Yeah, so it's really not that long. I mean, it's not even in the it doesn't even get to the 600 page mark. It just looks, so I want to reread this one because I remember loving it and I want to love it even more. So I want to reread it. So that's one of the more recent ones that I reread, including the Dickens books. Now let's talk about ones I haven't read. Now, let me first talk about this one. This is one that I probably should include in the rereads. But, again, I didn't even get very far in it. So it's kind of more of a DNF. And that is, although some of these rereads might have been DNFs at one time. But that is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Now, this is an interesting situation because I was disappointed by Jekyll and Hyde. But I'm keeping that one version of Jekyll and Hyde that I have because, one, I like the cover, which I know makes me no better than most people. There are a lot of people who love covers and will sometimes keep the books because the cover's pretty. But then eventually I think those people usually decide, okay, I shouldn't keep it just because of the cover, because it's taking up space. But also there's other stories in that one that I haven't read that I want to read, just to see if I'm before I officially decide to put in the donation pile if I end up not liking them. But I want to reread his Treasure Island because I love Muppet Treasure Island and I love Treasure Planet, and I love pirates, and I just want to try this one again because there's another situation where I think maybe it was just bad timing, maybe I just wasn't in the right mood, and maybe I just wasn't used to the writing style, and sometimes, but this is just like with Dracula, and also with Jane Eyre kind of does that too, I think. Actually, no, because it's not like Dear Diary or Dear Journal or anything, but it is in first person. But it's their kind of journal entries or diary entries. Like we have, and my first thought when I first started reading, I thought it was kind of boring. I was losing interest, but I want to give this another chance because it's, it may not be as exciting as Pirates of the Caribbean, but still pirates. And I didn't entirely hate Jekyll and Hyde. I think that it could have been better if it wasn't from the perspective of the outsiders looking in, watching their friend, Dr. Jekyll. I think it had a lot more potential. And, so, like I said, it's just more one that I just want to give another shot before I completely dismiss it. Okay, and then next is the other Steinbeck I have here, East of Eden. Again, another one that I started a while back, and that's one of my goals, to pick up books that I've started and finish them this year. But, East of Eden, and it's kind of partly a retelling of the Cain and Abel story and Adam and Eve and everything, and again, this one also takes place in Sonalis Valley. You have two brothers, Adam and what is the other guy's name? Adam and Cyrus is the father. Where is the other guy's name? Adam Trask, and then his brother. Let me find the brother's name. They're half brothers. So I'm trying to find the other brother. Okay, again, Adam. Where's the other brother's name? Charles. Adam and Charles Trask. And I think they would consider half brothers because they have different moms. It's first we have their story, and they do not get along, and there's resentment between the two of them, and they live very different lives, and they're not very close. And then Adam ends up falling in love with Kathy. Again, Kathy is not if you're named Kathy, you must not be a likable person. No offense to anyone who's named Kathy, but I noticed that both in this one and in Withering Heights, she's not a nice person, the character named Kathy. But Kathy she's this mean little evil witch of a person, and Adam falls in love with her, and he has two twin boys. They have two twin babies. And she essentially abandons him. That's as far as I got. And I do not want to. I want to get farther along in this because that's as far as I got last time before I restarted it for a second time. So I want to keep going with it after this. But I guess part of the problem is I'm doing the medieval readathon, so I don't know if I can apply that to any of the prompts. So I might not start this until. Okay, so next is, I don't have much to say about this one. This one I got from, I think it was from the Roast Office bookshop. Selected Writings of Gertrude Stein. I remember hearing that name with authors like Hemingway and Fitzgerald, like she was part of that group of authors from the 20s, I think. I don't have much to say. I just thought it would be kind of cool to have this and read from this author and read from this writer and their work and stuff. And I think it's also about this person who was a fan of Gertrude Stein. And we get her autobiography as well in this. And then the essays of Gertrude Stein. So I'm not going to say much about that. And then I want to keep going. Again, another one that I've started, Paradise Lost, which is an epic poem about Adam and Eve and their fight with Lucifer and his downfall to become Satan. And it's an epic poem, and I did enjoy Sir Gawain the Green Knight, and Beowulf was kind of cool too. So I wanted to try more epic poetry, which is why I also have I don't have it here, but Elizabeth Barrett Brown, a collection of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's poetry. I don't know if is she the wife of John Browning? I'm not sure. I have to check on that. because I think John Browning is his name. Because I remember when I took a poetry class in high school, either high school or college. Actually, it might have been college, where we studied poetry. And I definitely want to get more into poetry because it's just sometimes you feel like, well, I have to understand this. Will I be able to appreciate it because it's not like prose? It's different from prose. It's a little more cryptic. Of course, not everybody feels like it's that cryptic. But at first glance, I feel like it looks a little cryptic. Like, is it like, it can be a bit confusing and it's more symbolic and, but anyway. I'm kind of struggling with this, but I'm not going to give up. And like I said, I'm kind of hoping my dad is interested in reading this so we can read it so he can kind of, it's like when I'm reading it, I get the emotions I need to express and I kind of get the basic idea, but I don't comprehend everything. So I'm hoping that my dad will read it at some point. But although he's working on his own book, as in he's writing a book and working on getting a book published, in fact, he's got to actually get a subtitle. Which, by the way, I'm going to talk about that book on here, on my channel, but he's going to get a subtitle. He has to come up with a subtitle because the title he came up with is the same as another author's title. So it was suggested that he come up with different, like a subtitle, which is surprisingly really hard to do. So that is Paradise Lost by John Monte. I want to read that one. Oh, and actually, Odyssey would be on this list as well. The Odyssey, because I did start that one. But I'm too late. I don't want to. This video is already getting pretty long, and I'm at 61% on my computer. So, okay. Sorry, I'm going kind of speeding through this. So, okay. And then I want to read another OSE book this year, and that is Brothers Karamazov, another one that I clearly have started. Although I've been told by Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot that you probably don't want to read, or maybe he just, no, I think he said you don't want to read two Dostoevsky books at the same time because it can be a bit much. I'm not going to read them at the same time. I'm just going to read them both in 1 year. So, this is about a group of brothers and a family drama, and I actually got a little spoiled for what happens in this book. Someone gets murdered, I believe, is what he said. So, it's going to be someone in the family gets murdered. So I guess it's a bit of a murder mystery. So I already started. I like it. So I'm not bored at all. I find all the brothers really interesting. They're all very different. Like I said, I love stories about sibling relationships as well as friendships. So, because especially friendships that you're you're kind of surprised that these people are such good friends. That's what I liked about The School for Good and Evil. One of the things I liked about that is the two main characters, Agatha and Sophie, were complete opposites of each other. Yet I think there was a real, genuine friendship there. It's just Sophie sometimes had a hard time of showing a good friendship. But yeah, I feel like, Dostoevsky can be a bit philosophical and stuff, but I feel like he's not that hard to read. I mean, I think once you start and once you get comfortable with writing style, don't start with these authors that even though I say they're readable, don't start with them either, because I feel like you need to get used to the writing style. But once you start and get used to an older writing style, then they are really readable. So 2 Dostoevsky books in a year. Let's see if I can do it. And then I want to read Vanity Fair. Now, I know one of my favorite booktubers that we do have a lot of books in common or a lot of similar interest. Not a lot, but some. This is the modern. I think this is a modern library edition. So maybe it needs to go with the modern library books. I'm going by the little image of the person. You can see. This is Vanity Fair, and that booktuber I was thinking of is, modern library. What is her name? Jennifer books. A lot of times we have books that we're both interested in, but she actually read Vanity Fair and assumed that she would like it, and she didn't. It's like she preferred Gone with the Wind, and this is kind of a like an American like a British version of Gone with the Wind, I think. Yeah, I think Terry and I were talking, debating, trying to figure that out, which came first. Yeah, I think, yeah, because the copyright is 1950, so this is a British version of Gone with the Wind. This was inspired by it. And she didn't really, she was surprised that she ended up not liking it. So I want to read it to see if I feel the same way or not, and I kind of have a soft spot for this kind of edition, because it's old. It actually it's an old book. It's not just a fancy vintage edition, it's an old book. So I kind of want to read it. Even though it's the hardback is kind of plain, but I do like this. I like that it's not entirely plain, like it has the title. So yeah, I want to read this one. All I know is our main character is Becky Sharp, and like Scarlett O'Hara, she's a very vain, spoiled little bratty young woman who manipulates people to get what she wants. So I'm going to read that. Okay, and then another one is I want to finally finish Alexander Dumas' Count of Monte Cristo. As you can see, look, not that much more to go. It's just, sometimes I feel like part of the problem is certain books I just need to read them for an hour. Like, I'm, even with some of the fantasy books, even though the writing is more modern, more approachable, and a little less tedious, there are still times when I need to sit down and read for an hour that fantasy book to get into it, and it's the same thing with classics, especially with classics. Like, I need to take an hour to sit down. Like, it's hard to read when I only get to really get into the story when I only have a little bit to read, only read a little bit. Like, read right before I fall asleep, or read during my 15-minute break at work. I almost went into work today. I almost had it because they called me early this morning, which I was like, I was still sleeping, so like, why are you calling me now? And, so I ended up saying no, I couldn't come in. But, so yeah, I want to read this one as well. I want to finish this one this year, but I don't know if that will happen because I just need to take the time to sit down and read for a good hour where I only focus on this book to really get into it. And this is another revenge story. You have our main character, Edmond Dantes, who, he has a good life, good job, but due to jealousies from co-workers and a friend, he gets framed for being a bonapartist and is sent to an island prison, but escapes, and he ends up seeking revenge by creating this identity of the Count of Monte Cristo, which, again, another one where I probably shouldn't share that with you guys. That should probably be a considered a spoiler, so I apologize. But yeah, he becomes the Count, and comes with this intricate plan to get revenge on these people. But what's interesting, what Jennifer Brooks herself pointed out, because it's one of her favorites, is that the first part of the book, you get what's going on, and you're just as clueless as Edmund, but then in the second part, when the Count shows up, you don't know what the Count's plans are. You don't know what he intends, and you don't know what's going on. You're totally confused and lost with his, with what he's doing and stuff. But part of why, of course, I have more of an idea of what happens in this book is actually because I've seen the Jim Caviezel movies. I know the basic premise. But again, this is another classic like with Les Mis. It could easily be a TV show or a miniseries. Although, like I said, both Les Mis and the Count of Monte Cristo, I'm more inclined for a TV show. Because there's so much. Look at all that that happens in this book. And even though I'm a firm believer in don't judge a movie based on its book, you know, I mean, although that is kind of changing because I do get a little bit more critical of movie adaptations of books that I enjoy. And I try not to be because I don't think it's fair to the people who create the movie because there's so much. You know, most movies are only 2 hours. I mean, there's occasionally you get lucky, like with James Cameron's films and Peter Jackson's films, for that matter. They both got lucky and they were able to make their movies like 3 hours long and still exciting and wanting to keep people interested. Like, I remember I always listened to the commentary on Titanic, and those guys were worried when they did their screening of it, what audience would think, and they said, they loved the personal story of Jack and Rose, but the part with the ship hitting the iceberg and all of that stuff was too long in their opinion, in their screening audience's opinion. It was that part that was too long, while the personal story of Jack and Rose was great. And they were that's what they were worried about, the people would not like the love story. But no, people loved it. Pun intended. So, yeah, occasionally you can get a little lucky, which I need to put, like, oh, I did put in there. Okay, good. I did put in there. Of course, I can't take off the other address label, but, well, I kind of ruined that one a little bit. Oh, crap. The ink on the, I should have let it dry first. Dang it. So I want to get to that one, and then I want to. This is the only Jane Austen I think I have. Well, actually, I haven't read Lady Susan yet, so I gotta read that one. But Lady Susan, Northanger Abbey are the only one Jane Austen books I haven't read. So, although technically, if you want to get technical, I listened to Emma and Mansfield Park. I didn't actually physically read them. Sorry, that still just drives me crazy when there are people out there who tell you it doesn't count if you listen to an audiobook. I know I brought it up in the last video, not the last one, but the other video from yesterday. They uploaded yesterday. I brought it up because it just annoys me so much. But, so yeah, I technically listened to those, but I am going to read them this year. They're here. Which actually, I should have put them in the reread section. Classics reread, but it's too late now. So Northanger Abbey, and all I know about this one is this woman is obsessed with Gothic literature, and it's kind of satire on that Gothic literature. And this woman goes to Bath to stay with some relatives or friends, and she finds herself, or she feels like she's found herself in a Gothic novel plot, and that's all I know. So, and I think I'm gonna read this for the, I'm gonna put this, if I make it in time, I'm gonna read this for the reread, the medieval readathon, Holly's medieval readathon, because there's one prompt in one of the professions, one of the professions I'm doing that I'm trying to apply for, that you have to read a book about books. So I'm going to read this one for that prompt. Because, like I said, it's kind of about her obsession with Gothic novels. Okay, so since I mentioned them, and they technically should have been in the reread section, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to reread The Asphalt Park and Emma by Jane Austen. I got these vintage editions. I love them. So pretty. Okay, so Emma is a rich woman, kind of spoiled, just her and her dad. And after some predicting accurately, she ends up deciding that she's gonna be a matchmaker for her friends and neighbors. But it does not go well, and there are consequences for that matchmaking. And she also makes friends with this one woman who her parentage is unknown. She makes friends with her and tries to shape her into like a carbon copy of herself, and help her in she picks out her love, who she should be matched with, and then her friend, Emma's best friend, Mr. Knightley, does not approve of her behavior towards this woman and how she influences her. And of course, there's a love story in this. It's so fun. Like, I love Emma's character. I think a lot of people that love this book, it's because of the character of Emma. But then people who hate this one, it's also because of the character Emma. Which I find really, she's a very polarizing character, put it that way. And then Mansfield Park, next to Anne Elliot from Persuasion, and then Fanny Price. I feel like those are the two. Oh, and Eleanor from Sense and Sensibility. Those are the three Austen heroines I relate to the most. I'm more like the more shy, reserved heroines. But this is about this young woman, Fanny. Her mom married beneath her, so she married for love, and they end up having a lot of kids, including Fanny and her brother. Her brother is a sailor. So, and Fanny gets sent to live with her aunt and uncle, her rich relatives. Okay, it still doesn't say the family's last name. She ends up living with her rich relatives. They kind of take her for granted. They ignore her, or they kind of bully her a little bit. And her only friend is her cousin Edmund. And as she gets older, she falls in love with Edmund. But he doesn't see her in that. He just doesn't see her in that way, and she and this, while their father, the family patriarch, is away. This new family moves in next door, the Crawfords, and Mary and Henry Crawford come into the lives of Fanny's relatives, and kind of spin their world upside down and influence them in a very negative way, and even try to get them to do a very inappropriate play of the time. And her two female cousins are infatuated with Henry, and he pursues both of them. And then Mary sets her sight first on the oldest brother, because he's the one who would inherit the family fortune. But then she ends up deciding that she likes Edmund better. But Edmund wants to be a part of the clergy, and she does not approve of that. And Fanny is the only one who sees right through the Crawfords. Although she becomes friends with Mary. She kind of tries to be friends with Mary, and even there's something that happens between her and Henry a little bit, although. And I should tell you, and as I always say, and every time I talk about this book, I feel like a person who really does a good job at talking about this book, doing a good discussion. Well, two people that I think do great discussions on BookTube of this book are Olive from A Book Olive and Katie from Books and Things. They both do a really great, thorough discussion on this one, and giving it, because these two are both. This one, just like Emma, kind of has it's a bit polarizing. I mean, I think because people just don't find Fanny as an interesting heroine as Elizabeth Bennet or as Marianne Dashwood or even Lady Susan. People find them so much more. People don't like the shot. Ow! It's like I hit my chin with all my books. Those characters are very charismatic and fun and confident in themselves and very outspoken. And Fanny just isn't outspoken. She's shy and reserved, and she doesn't really. There are times when it looks like she should stand up to herself. She constantly gets bullied by her relatives, and they walk all over her. But she's just a strong young woman who knows who she is, sticks to her morals, beliefs, but also is a situation where it's kind of hard for her to stand up for herself. Her widowed other aunt, constantly reminds her you should be grateful and appreciative. And most of the times in the story, Fanny is so grateful and is so appreciative. There are a couple times where she just doesn't approve and doesn't think it's fair, but she's very quiet about it. When they're putting on the play, the very inappropriate play, she doesn't want to be part of it because she knows it's wrong. And they try to persuade her and convince her, and then her aunt, she keeps saying no, but her aunt is like, you should do this for them, because they've taken you in and been good friends for you, and they you should be grateful to them and appreciative by playing in this play. And it's like, no, I don't want to do it. Because I know this is wrong. And the aunt is so, both the kid's mom, her cousin's mom, and her other aunt just don't get it. And they don't realize how wrong, how inappropriate the play is. Now, I need to look up the play because I want to see how inappropriate it would be today, considered by today's standards. So, yeah. And then I may as well go ahead and show. So those are also rereads. And while I'm here, I'll go ahead and show you the other one, another vintage one I have. And I want to get Master of, I don't know if it's of or and Margarita. Another Russian classic in this edition, but I need to wait. Because, like I said, because of this chair that I have here, I spent a lot of money recently, so I can't really buy anything online right now. So, and it wouldn't be in the stores, unfortunately. But I want to get the vintage edition of that one. But for now, I have this one, and I want to read it. This is Anna Karenina. And I believe from what I've heard, there's really two main characters. The title character of Anna Karenina, where she is betrothed to this rich guy, this rich noble guy, but then she ends up falling in love with this count, and cheats on her husband. But there's also the character of Levin, and he falls, he's in love with this one woman that doesn't feel the same way about him. And I think she is I don't know if she's I think she's the sister of Anna Karenina. So it's about them and their relationship. But I didn't realize that Anna herself was not the main character, wasn't the only main character in this. I just assumed that being the title character because she's the one people hear about, and she's the one that's covered in the movie with Keira Knightley. So I didn't realize there was this other character of Levin. So again, another one that I've started but have not continued because I got sidetracked. So I want to continue that one as well. And then I'm gonna take this because I'm kind of feeling a little warm right now. Okay, and then the other Tolstoy. Let me go ahead and talk about the other Tolstoy is War and Peace. And again, another one that I was inspired to start but got sidetracked. This is, I think, about I don't know if the Napoleonic War is the same as the Russian Revolution, but I think it's all about that. And it's also about all these characters and their experiences after and during the war and their relationship with each other, and there's romance in this and people dying and all that good stuff. It's epic. See how big that is. It seems bigger than Anna Karenina. And people get intimidated by Anna Karenina. Imagine how intimidated they would be about this one. I thought about buying new edition because of this. A new version of it. But you know what? It's still perfectly intact. As long as I can still read it. And the cover doesn't fall off. But this is another one that I've started. And again, Tolstoy's writing, it feels very readable. I still am kind of curious if that one person, if you're watching my video, if you still watch my videos, I'm still, I can admit, I'm still kind of curious, and I thought about looking it up. But I'm too late, again, as I said before, I'm kind of lazy about it, I keep forgetting about it, but every time I think about it, when you said that, Tolstoy didn't write his own books, his wife did, or what, I don't remember exactly what you said, I would have to go through my comments. But it's still kind of in the back of my mind. I'm still kind of curious because people, you're the only person I've heard who's ever said that. No one else has ever talked about that. But part of me is still, but like I said, I'm also kind of lazy, and a small part of me is kind of interested, but another part is I just want to read the book. And it's not anything against you when you're telling me this. It's just more, I just want to read the book, and it doesn't matter to me although it does matter to the extent of, again, it could potentially be another situation where, he's getting the credit when she's the one who did the work, if it's true. And like I said, I'm not trying to say, again, I just don't know least I'm on volume 2 now. But anyway, yes, I want to read this one as well. So 2 Tolstoy books, and part of me wants to put all my authors together, but part of me also wants to keep, because I have so many Penguin editions, and then the Barnes & Noble ones, and the World Cloud Classics editions, and so it's like I want to, and apparently I have a few Modern Library ones, so I almost want to keep those together, but then at the same time I want to keep authors together as well. So for now I'm gonna go, when I finally get my new shelf, I'm gonna go with the editions, keeping editions together. Okay, and then I was gonna grab the other Wilkie Collins book, but I decided not to and just stick with his one book, and that is The Woman in White. So I do have the Moonstone. And again, I don't know if I want to save, I could read this for March, because March Mystery Madness. Or Victober, I don't know, but this is a mystery where this guy, sees this mysterious woman in white that he had saw earlier, and they look very similar, so he doesn't know if it's the same woman. That's a really poor description, but like I said, I'm kind of trying to get through this. But that's all something like that. So again, another one that I have started, but I get sidetracked again. And like I said, these books, I feel like I need to sit with them for a good hour and focus on them, like read a lot of it for a good hour or longer. So I definitely want to read some more Wilkie Collins. I have his other book, The Moonstone, as well, and I think that's it. And then this one is one I just talked about in the video I just finished filming, Evelina. So I've been wanting to check out some, because I love the 1700s time periods, I've been wanting to check out books that came from that time period, and this author was on that list, on one of the websites I looked at that had a list of those books. So this is Evelina, and I read it in the last video I read this. She enters society and falls in love, and and it's about her experience in the social world, and how the social world of snobbery and sexual aggression, and sometimes how the world's not always nice. It's about her experiences in it. And I think it should help that it's written by, it kind of makes it a little bit more appealing that it's written by a woman. Because I feel like they will do more justice to female characters. But yeah, I want to read this one as well. In fact, I'm inspired to read it right now. But like I said, I'm trying to get through some fantasy. I get 2 fantasy books read first. Okay, and then this is one that I started reading but got sidetracked. The Pickwick Papers. This one kind of caught me off guard, because I kind of had an idea what I was getting into, but I just got very restless and got sidetracked by other books. This is his first published novel. It's about this group of guys who run these Pickwick Papers, and it's all about their adventures. They're led by Mr. Pickwick, and this was written in his early 20s, and it was interesting. The characters were fun and entertaining. It's just sometimes, again, it could also be just bad timing. And my mind wasn't fully concentrating, because when I would pick it up, I would be kind of tired. And I didn't entirely, I thought it was still fun. I just, again, just bad timing. So, I want to pick it up. And it's actually going to be Emmy and Caroline Marie Reed's first Dickens novel that they're going to read next month. So I'm gonna start reading it then, next month, in February, along with some sort of romancy books. And then, so next is this author. I've read some of her work already. I read some of her novellas and short stories, and I finally bought some of her novels. So I got Age of Innocence, and then this one is my sister's used copy of The House of Mirth, which a lot of people talk about this one, how great it, a lot of people are fans of Enid Horton and talk how great this one is. Again, another one that I don't know a lot about it. Wow, it established her literary reputation. So it made a great impression. So our main character, Lily, is relations to a wealthy woman. And she likes the world and money and stuff. She gets caught up in it, I guess. And, but she's also a very good person and strong morals. So, like, she struggles with surviving the world of socialization rich people. Which a lot of times, of course, I feel like a lot of times books like this, that tends to happen. Even if you kind of like that world, because it can change you and make you not the best kind of person anymore. So, like, then that's just from looking at the back description, so. And then I think I want to attempt Valette. This is Charlotte's second novel, I think. It's about a governess who, a woman who she starts a new life in a boarding school as a, oh no, it's her final, at first I said first, so sadly this is her last novel, her final novel, which is kind of sad. But I want to read this one, although I'm told that, but from what I hear, a lot of people complain about that there's a lot of words that they wish were in English that ends up being in French. So I don't know if I'll probably stumble on that, some of the French words. Luckily I do have people that have some basic. Although my sister, it's been a long time since she studied French, and she ended up getting the translation of this, I think it's like a poem in Picture of Dorian Gray. I asked her because she took French, studied French for the longest time, but she hasn't used it in a while, so she ended up getting that translation wrong. She ended up getting it incorrect. So, but yeah, it's like with Jane Eyre, it's a bit of a coming-of-age story, and but I don't think it ends as happy as Jane Eyre does, because Jane Eyre still kind of ends happy, even if Rochester is not the best choice for a love interest. Okay, and then almost done. And then I have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This will be my first attempt at Jules Verne. This one I kind of got inspired because I've been watching the Defunctland videos on that. It's a channel on YouTube where they talk about mostly Disney parks, but they also talk about other parks as well, and the history of them and what happened to them, because some of them don't exist anymore. And in the Disney World in, I think it's Euro Disney, they used to have the Jules Verne inspired version of Tomorrowland. So I was watching that, and it kind of inspired me to think about Jules Verne again and consider him, because I kind of was mildly interested, especially with the way he's talked about in Back to the Future. Because Doc Brown is a huge fan, and so is Clara Clayton, the new character that's introduced in the third movie. That's not related to Marty, I should say, or connected to Marty in any way. So they talk about one of the things they bond over, because she's the Doc Brown's love interest in that third movie, and they talk about Jules Verne. They're both fans of him, and they even name their sons. Spoiler alert. They name their sons Jules and Verne. And like, of course, I feel bad for those kids when they get older. They're probably gonna be teased about their names, because kids are mean. And that he talked off. Brown says, how Jules 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was one of his favorites, and how he wanted to meet Captain Nemo, and he was all excited about it, and inspired him and stuff, and he read it when he was a kid. And then I know that there was a more recent movie adaptation of Around the World in 80 Days, starring, I can't remember the actor's name, but Jackie Chan is in it, and I can't remember the other guy. I can't remember his name. Although I wonder how that movie did. I should look up reviews on that movie, how people felt about it. And I personally like that movie. Now, I don't know if there was any problematic elements or anything, or if there was any bad aspects of that movie, but I like that movie. But this was the one I saw, so I grabbed this one, and plus, I love these editions. But this is basically about these guys who end up being rescued by a guy who runs a submarine, this Captain Nemo guy, and he takes them on, but he says they have to live on the submarine forever and kind of explore the sea with him. And, that's the deal and all that. But then I think they start having second thoughts about being in the submarine forever and are, Okay, so there's that one. These great, I love these World Classic editions. Larissa also thought they were really pretty. And then this one is a collection. I have two collections actually here. This is Selected Works, actually three. I forgot, the Gertrude Stein one. This is Edgar Allan Poe's works. And this is another author that I have, the Barnes & Noble leather-bound, those big, huge books with all their works in it. I have that one, but I wanted one that was a little bit more portable. And see how small this one is if you compare it to the leather-bound Barnes & Noble. This is so much easier to carry. And again, I love these World Classics editions. But this is all his work, I think. Or his selected works of Edgar Allan Poe. So maybe not all of them. So I can, and some of them I really, and I remember years ago, one time in elementary school, I actually wrote a poem that very much felt Edgar Allan Poe-esque. I felt like I was channeling Poe with this poem. But I don't know where it is. I don't have any evidence to prove that. So, wish I did. I wish I still had it, but I don't know what happened to it. So this has, of course, this has the Raven, the Telltale Heart, Pit in the Pendulum, The Mask of Red Death. All the ones I've read. The Gold Bug I have not read, but I'm familiar with it. The Black Cat, that's one of Brittany Murphy Napier's favorite ones. Cast of Montedello, I read that in one of my college classes. Lenore, I'm familiar with that one. Annabelle Lee, of course. Most people are familiar with that one as well. So I want to read this as well. But this is one of those ones that I can get away with not finishing it this year, because it's a collection of stories. And then I have one last pile. So this is one I want to finish the series. I need to finish the series. I want to finish the series this year, and I don't want this to be another one where I only read a book, a book a year in the series. So this is the Barsetshire series. I want to read. Oh, I did not grab the last book, but you have Dr. Thorne, which is the third book. Family Parsonage, I think, is the fourth one. Small House at Allington. The Last Barset is the last book. The Barset Chronicle, Last Barset Chronicle. So I want to finish this series. It's basically about the Barchester This little English village. Dr. Thorne is a romance, so I don't know if I'll love this one or not. I was just recently thinking about that because I'm not a huge romance fan. At least not plots that are mostly focused on romance. Although with these kinds of books, I'm a little more interested because there's not other more exciting stuff to distract me. But I believe this is a romance in Dr. Thorne, and there is this whole class difference kind of romance. Like a Cinderella kind of romance, from what I know. Like, one of them is beneath the other. And then, I don't know what the other two are. The Family Parsonage or Small House in Allington, which this was actually the first one I got from. This is the one that I was at the library. The Family Parsonage. For some reason, they only had this one at the library, which kind of annoyed me. Especially because I learned that it's a series, it's an actual traditional series, and where you need to read the books in order. And I don't know what the Small House at Allington, or Last Chronicle of Barca, I don't know what those ones are about. Per se, I just know what Dr. Thorne is about. So I want to go into them without knowing only knowing a little bit. So there's that. That's a series that I want to finish this year. There's a lot of those that I want to finish that I think I could potentially finish this year. And then the last three, you have. This is another collection. So I actually have 4 collections over here. The Awakening and Other Stories, although again, just like with the Tolstoy collection, that it is titled The Death of Ivan Lynch, but that's not the first one, that's the second one. So like with that one, the second story is not Ivan Lynch. It's not The Awakening. It's not the first story. It's actually towards the end. Which is like, okay, do I want to read that one first, or go back and read all the other ones first, and then read The Awakening? Okay, so you have a lot of stories in this one. From the Bayou Folk, so you have Love, Umbondu, Beyond the Bayou, A Visit to an Avoidless, La Belle Zorande in Sabine, from A Night in Arcadia, Azim Holiday is a Matter of Prejudice, at Shamir Kamanada, A Respectable Woman, Regret, Athena's A Night in Arcadia, The Awakening. Yeah, okay, so The Awakening is the last one, actually, so I don't know if I want to read those in order or read The Awakening first. But I almost feel like when I get collections, if, I like to read them in order of how they are in the book when I get collections. So I might read the other ones first and then eventually get to The Awakening. Not read that one until later. Okay, and then 2 more to go. So the next one is Jacques the Fatalist. And again, this is another one that I don't know what it's about per se. I did read the back. And Jacques, I think, is a scientist. Okay, so Jacques is the main character, because sometimes book titles are... Okay, I do not know who that is. That's the second time today. Jacques the Fatalist is our main character, and because sometimes some title characters aren't always the main characters. Sometimes the title just refers to the interesting, eccentric character that our main character is intrigued by and is interested in. Okay, and then his master, and they're trying to explore destiny and humanity and something like that. It's a play, so it won't take me as long to read. This is another one that I keep thinking about reading soon. Because this is one of those ones that bought with very limited knowledge of what it's about, except for just reading the back description and kind of wanting to. And I think part of the problem is I take forever to read books like that. They end up sitting on my shelf, and a lot of them I end up deciding, oh, I don't want to read this anymore. I was interested when I bought it, but now I'm not interested anymore. So, I want to buy this and read. I want to read it and decide after I read it if I don't want it anymore. And then finally, we're on the last book. And by the way, I apologize for that phone call. I do not know who that was. It said it didn't. It was a weird number that I didn't recognize. It was kind of annoying. That it's not like one of those ones where I can just put it to the world. Don't call me right now. I'm filming videos. I mean, I could do that with my family, but I can't do that with those. And I still don't know how to edit. And I need someone to. And as I keep saying, I can't figure out editing on my own. I need someone to help me with that. So you have to. At least I'll make the videos very real. Okay, and then the last thing is this. Fitzgerald's, it's a collection of his short stories, his early works, I believe, and I've already read some of them, and I want to read more this year, so I'm definitely not gonna finish this. That's not my goal. I just want to read a lot of them. So go to the. Okay, so the last one I read was Dice, Brass Knuckles, and Guitar. That's the last one I read. So I'm on Absolution, I believe, and so I want to read Absolution all the way up to Jacob's Ladder, and then I want to start A Short Trip Home, The Bull, The Captured Shadow, Basil and Cleopatra, The Last of the Bells, Majesty at Your Age, and then and then I'll probably stop there. I'll stop at Your Age. And then there's a handful more. So, yeah. So it's all some early works, some short stories. And some of them are about are kind of inspired by his marriage to Zelda, and some of them are like about, the Jazz Age, and they're all kind of fun, And so far I've liked some of them. Some of them I really enjoyed. Some of them I was like, it's okay. But I think with short stories it can vary, Sometimes you can love them, but you can't. I don't think unless they're all short stories. And I feel sometimes with some authors, because I'm used to their novels, the short stories feel incomplete, like Dickens, for instance. His short stories that I attempted to read, they just felt incomplete. So that is all of the classics, and I want to, well, not all of them. This is a lot of classics, a lot of the classics I want to read this year. Probably won't get to all these, and there's still other classics that I want to read that I'm looking at my shelf and be like, oh, I want to read that one too, and that one, and that one. So if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe, continue to wear your mask, wash your hands as much as possible, use hand sanitizer. I hope you are enjoying your reading and being kind to everyone around you. Alright, bye!